This is Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
We had 8 games of mayhem in the NBA and NHL postseason last night. I had the pleasure of seeing one of those ridiculous finishes in person. We'll get to it all as we welcome you into Money Moves on a Wednesday alongside Jonathan Von Tobel, Stormy Buonantony with you. We're live in downtown Las Vegas at Circus Sportsbook. And real quickly, just for anyone who missed it, Golden Knights Wild last night. Series is tied at 2. Game is tied at 2 late in the third period. The Minnesota Wild score a goal, JVT, that looks good. They review it to see if maybe there was a kick on the play to get the puck in the net. They say, nope, the goal is good. However, that gave the Golden Knights video crew added time to look at all elements of the goal. Turns out the Wild were offside. So the Wild go from looking like they're going to win in regulation 3-2 to losing in overtime to the Vegas Golden Knights, who go up 3-0 in that set. Awesome.
I mean, I'm down with it. As somebody who bet them to win the series when they were down 2-1, I very much enjoy that they have won these last 2 games. It is interesting that a team that had, I think he's dominated too strong for the regular season series in Minnesota. I mean, they kicked the crap out of him for a while, that regular season series. I know Fleury started one of those games. I know we had a Fleury appearance yesterday. Yeah. So I'm surprised that we're here. I'm surprised that it's taken this long. But now, obviously, the Knights in the driver's seat, and hopefully they stop playing like a-holes and can get this thing done. We
shall see, because obviously they do have to go on the road tomorrow back to Minnesota for a critical Game 6. They have the opportunity to close it there, but if not, have the benefit of home ice in Game 7 on Saturday. So that's been a fun series. There's a lot of fun action. We'll get to it all over the course of the next 2 hours in the NBA, in the NHL. But as we kick things off with today's rundown, we're going to start somewhere else real briefly. Kick it off.
It's time for the top headlines and topics of the day. This is the Rundown.
All right, top items that we are hitting in today's Rundown. We're talking all things Derby and the Diamond, JVT. The 2025 Kentucky Derby is coming up on Saturday. Looking forward to having Fox Sports Betting Analyst Chris Fallica on the show to break it down. And a full day of baseball, 16 games on the card. Cardinals-Reds doubleheader is what gives us that extra game. We'll also get some unexpected day baseball because of that. And we're going to dive into the month of May betting odds board.
Yes, so very much looking forward to doing that. I like to bet these. I would force Tim to do it. So we both come up with a wager. We'll both put some money on it. We can track that throughout the month. Most wins in that month. I've got 3 candidates, so we'll see if you shoot them down. And very excited to have some baseball while we're on the air as well.
And you're probably going to laugh at me. I probably did way too much work in that segment.
You texted me at I had not even gotten home yet. I think it was 2 o'clock yesterday, and you were asking questions. I was like, okay, she better have something good, because it sounds like she's already. Well, yeah, I knew you were going to the game, so you were probably getting work out.
Yes, I was trying to get stuff done early, but I I'm not as deep in the weeds in baseball as you, and so I was really going through the schedules, and so there's that for me.
I have all the schedules memorized, so.
Oh, of course you do. We will also get to the NBA, 2 elimination games coming up. Neither team up 3-1 is favored to end things tonight, though. Rockets laying 4.5 at home to extend the series with Golden State, and while the Lakers have been bet out from 5.5 to 6, the public doesn't seem to believe JVT. Just 44% of the bets coming in at DraftKings, 33% of the bets at Circa on LA. Could they be done tonight?
I think they possibly could be. I think the key word for tonight in the games that we're going to see is the A-word, adjustments. So what are both teams going to change as we go back onto the floor? The Lakers, will they start their lasers lineup tonight, despite the fact that J.J. Redick has been a little resistant to take Jackson Hayes out of the starting lineup, but it worked really well at the start of that second half. And for the Golden State Warriors, will we see the double big lineup to start the game with Steven Adams and Alperen Şengün? So very excited to see. It's my favorite part about the postseason, too. The game-to-game adjustments. You talked about this in terms of hockey. You don't really see a ton of line changes or adjustments in that regard. In the NBA, you see it every single game, and I love the push and pull of that, and we'll see that in a big way tonight.
Also, just last night, as we round out the rundown today, I think it's fair to say that was the best cumulative night we've seen in the playoffs by far. Since we already talked Knights Wild as one of the best games of the night, let's give the NBA some love here, because Pacers Bucks was insane. And as somebody who wanted nothing to do with the Bucks yesterday, they freaking battled. And something we talked about too yesterday was how so many of these NBA games present live betting opportunities. That was a tremendous example last night.
Yeah, I mean, look, it was absolutely insane watching every single one of these contests. We have to start with Milwaukee. It is poetic the way that for a brief moment, I even tweeted out because they're up by 6. They're up by 6 with 2 free throws.
Yeah.
And you're thinking in less than a minute, and you're like, okay, like they're going to at least extend the series out. I tweet out, wouldn't it be poetic if Doc Rivers were to come back from a 3-1 series deficit as opposed to blowing a 3-1 series lead? And then it completely falls apart. Gary Trent Jr. with 2 boneheaded turnovers down the stretch to give the Pacers back the lead. And then to not even breathe on Tyrese Halliburton to give him the game-winning layup. That was pure poetry, watching what happened in Indiana yesterday, all the way leading through Giannis grabbing Benedict Mathurin by the scruff of his neck, getting in a fight with Tyrese Halliburton's father. I thought yesterday was incredible. It was pure theater, and now we get a absolute banger of a second-round matchup between the Cavaliers and the Pacers. Should be a ton of fun, but wow, was that incredible yesterday. And by the way, we brought this up yesterday, too. The points, rebounds, and assists for Giannis, smoked through it. The 30 points, 20 rebounds, and 13 assists for Giannis. He was, again, incredible, and it leads to a loss.
Any combination of those worked out for you and hit the over, except for if you just bet the points, which we were talking about. It's 32.5, so he doesn't hit the over on his points alone, but an incredible stat line from him last night. And because you mentioned the end of game, so they go from down 118-111 to winning the game 119-118. So they blow a 7-point lead in the final 40 seconds. Entering Tuesday, teams in the play-by-play era, so late 90s, were 0-1,609 in the playoffs when trailing by at least 7 with 40 seconds or fewer remaining in the fourth quarter OT.
Only Doc.
Only Doc. And I feel bad for them, too. Second straight year that it is the Pacers who deliver the knockout punch to Milwaukee. Milwaukee, third straight year they're done in the first round. And because, last thing here, because you mentioned Gary Trent Jr., I feel so bad for him. Kid is having the game of his life, hits 8 threes, scores the first 12 points of OT, only has 2 turnovers in the game, and they're both in the most critical moments that lead to the final 5 points the other way.
He is simultaneously the reason why they were in it and the reason why they lost. It's incredible to do it. And now as we move forward here, we've talked big picture about Giannis and the Bucks. For the Cleveland Cavaliers and the Indiana Pacers, yesterday we saw a series price opener of -4, 500 in favor of Cleveland. Over at DraftKings and other spots, we are down to -390. I think that is an extremely cheap series price for the Cleveland Cavaliers. When you look at the matchups, this Pacers team is great. I also think that they are built to beat the Milwaukee Bucks. It's a faux kind of Minnesota Timberwolves, Denver Nuggets thing, right? Where, remember last year and all of the conversation around it was like, this Timberwolves team is built to beat the Nuggets. And they did it. And then they went to the next round and it just absolutely flamed out. I think that this is one where the Cleveland Cavaliers, who I was very impressed by in the just absolute beatdown over 4 games of Miami, that I think they're going to be able to win this series. And I think the market's getting this wrong and driving this down. So very much looking forward to that.
Okay. Also, cash your Celtics series tickets. If you laid the 1.5 games, that all comes through. 120-89 win and covers 11-point favorites against the Magic last night. And then how about the Pistons defeating the Knicks 106-103? New York leads the series 3-2. They had the opportunity to close it out, couldn't do it. And you could make the argument that the Pistons should be leading this series with the way some of these games have landed.
I mean, make the argument. It's a fact.
Yeah.
They came out after game 4 and they said, oh, my bad. Like, think about that. Now, again, if one event changes, who knows what happens, right? Butterfly farts in the wind. Who knows what comes from that? But I think when you look at it from the perspective of the way this series has been played, it's not like strong argument to say, no, like the Pistons have gotten the raw end here in this series. This is now, we talked about this when we were talking about the ramifications of that call, right? We finally, and the others, we finally get justice. This is going to go over the 5.5 games. So that's a very good thing because you can't determine that. I think from a perspective, how about this? You talk about a razor's edge. The net rating for the New York Knicks through 5 games, up 3-2, is a +1 in non-garbage time. This has just been absolutely come down to crunch time and figure it out. And not only, like the Bucks, what happened down the stretch, not the only, I should say, coaching malpractice yesterday. What the hell was Tom Thibodeau doing yesterday? He, down the stretch, because Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart are hurt, pulled them out of the game for the last, I think it was 90 seconds or whatever it was, and then watch the Pistons take control of the contest. And because there's no stoppage, Brunson and then Hart are sitting at the scorer's table and can't get back in. First off, call a timeout. You can get your best players back in there. And the other is, if they were healthy enough, because if you watch the sequence, they sit on the floor, they're on the bench, they're resting because they're injured. In 30 seconds, Stormy, they're at the scorer's table. Yeah. If they were healthy enough to check in 30 seconds later, why are they off the floor? I just don't understand what was happening there. And the Pistons go in and salt it away, and they get a big win. They have played very well in New York, and now they get to go back. They're 2-point favorites back at home. But you talk about the decision-making. You mentioned it, the crunch time, all of these games. It was insane yesterday.
Well, that's what I don't know what to do with Game 6. Pistons laying 2 back in Detroit, total 212.5. We got to talk about your Nuggets here. Your Clippers here, who fall to the Nuggets.
I'm out.
Come on. Denver takes a 3-2 series lead, 131-115, the final score there. That total last night, by the way, kept getting bet down. 208, I think. 246 points scored. If I told you Nikola Jokic had 4 made shots, 13 points, the Clippers should win that game.
Should I read everybody the text I sent you and Brian Ortega last night?
Maybe. You should. It was emotional.
Life is meaningless. Nothing but disappointment and tragedy. That is me watching this game yesterday. I use this term with Gil, and I'll tell you it as well. When I watch this Clippers team at times, and yesterday was such a great example of it, the word that comes to mind is apathy. They just seem so apathetic. They seem like a team that knows potentially that they're better, but that has not, again, come out in the results. I think that there is a downside and an upside to having a star like Kawhi Leonard. You love Kawhi Leonard. Obviously, you guys share an alma mater. But I think it is good when you're down to have a star that is even-keeled. It is also bad when you're down to have a star that is that even-keeled because at some point you need somebody to wake you guys up. And James Harden ain't doing that. And I think that is a small problem for this team in these scenarios. Stormy, in these first quarters, go back and look at the first quarters for each of these games in this series. This Clippers team has not gotten off to a good start. They have just come out sleepwalking almost every single one of these games. And now in the last few, it has completely kicked them in the rear end. And the market really believes them in Game 6. I don't know why you would.
They are a 6.5-point home favorite in Game 6. Total there sitting 211. Credit Jamal Murray, by the way. If you were laddering Murray props, you crushed it yesterday. 43 points for him. We're going to take a quick timeout. When we come back, we're going to look at the games that we have coming up tonight in the NBA, as well as our first day baseball game of the week together. Cardinals Reds about to get set here later on this hour.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
First pitch in some day baseball here in a little under 30 minutes as we welcome you back here to Money Moves on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. JVT, Stormy Buonantony with you.
I would like to address something very quickly, as we did get something. Dan Groeschel did tweet in and asked, how many butterfly farts into the wind do you think it would take to get JVT to like the NHL? I would like to make this very clear. I actually very much enjoy hockey. I enjoy playoff hockey. I don't have the bandwidth to watch regular season hockey. I think you would speak to the dump and chase nature of some regular season games, and same thing in the NBA.
I think playoff hockey is a completely different sport.
It's a great sport. So I want to make that clear, Dan. I do enjoy hockey. I've had it up on my screens at night when I'm watching stuff as well. It does not have the sound outside of if it being the late game or whatever it is, but just, pump the brakes on the accusation, okay?
It was pretty cool, though, last night, just seeing like the margins of victory being so fractional and the back and forth in so many of these games. It was a lot of fun. But the farts in the wind thing, that is the first time I've heard that butterfly effect reference. Yeah. Did you originate that? Is that a JVT special?
Sure. A lot of stuff, I just say it, and we'll see if it sticks. So,
well, I mean, it's catching on clearly on social media. Yeah. There you go. Let's get to this Cardinals-Reds matchup. Redo from yesterday. Miles Michaelis on the hill for St. Louis, plus 120 dog in Cincinnati. Brady Singer on the hill there, minus 142 the price on the home favorite. Run total sitting 9. Anything that stood out to you?
Yeah, I think, and we're starting to see some spots like Superbooks down to like minus 135 for Cincinnati. I wouldn't say no to somewhat cheap price on Singer here. But either way, Michaelis has been playing a little bit better than what his numbers would indicate. 5.70 ERA in the surface looks pretty poor. But the fielding independent is just about 3. If you look at some of the numbers, he's never been a dominant strikeout guy, but he is giving up some hard contact. You can kind of parse through the numbers and see maybe why he has gotten to the place where he is at. And then you look at Brady Singer. Singer hasn't allowed more than 3 earned runs in a start so far. He's been plagued a little bit by home runs. He's allowed 3 homers in his last 3 starts. 2 of those, though, were at the Great American Ballpark where he pitches today. It is somewhat humid, as you mentioned. It is a game 1 for a reason in the morning. So You can kind of explain away the homers. Home runs haven't really been his fault for the most part. When you give him home runs at the Great American Ballpark, not the worst thing in the world. Command is great. He doesn't put guys on base. He has the ability to get you out. So I think Singer's a guy that if you're looking at it from a first five perspective, or you see a slight bump in the market in favor of the Reds here, wouldn't say no to it. But I think Singer in the first five would be the way that I would head if the price was warranted or worth playing. But right now, I mean, what are we looking at price-wise? $1.55 for Singer in the first five. I think it's a little too high. So lean in that direction, but I think it's a little too expensive.
We'll get into the full MLB card a little bit later on in the show. We'll also, as we referenced off the top of the show, do the month of May best record odds that we'll get into. But we'll save that for a little bit later. Obviously, as this game goes on, we'll make you aware if there are any live betting opportunities as well. But let's get into the NBA because we have two really intriguing potential elimination games coming up tonight in Warriors Rockets and Timberwolves Lakers. Let's start with the Warriors here, up 3-1. They stole game 1 of the series on the road, lose game 2, handle home court, and now we're back in Houston. Looks like the Rockets are laying 3.5 right now, so down from that 4. Warriors getting played a little bit here, total 204.
So last night I took 4.5 with Golden State. To me, it's a number play. I think that's a bridge too far. I mean, think about where we were. We closed 4 in game 1, or excuse me, in game 4, right? What game are we at right now? We're at game 5, right?
We're in game 5,
okay,
yes.
I'm an idiot. I'm sorry. Everything's melting together. So in game 4, they close as 4-point favorites. Now we swing back to Houston, and at 4.5, so we're up there. Obviously, you could go to math. 4 plus 4 is 8. That's an 8-point swing. Just because you're changing venues or because of the scenario the Houston Rockets are in, that's really strong. Look, the Warriors are power rated as the better team, but this number would tell you that is not the case. So again, on a play of principle, I think to me it was just, I'm going to go here. Now, I'm going to be interested to see, you and I got away with playing the game over back in Golden State in game 4.
That's where I was going to ask you.
But that game had only 87 possessions. That was a very slow game. The efficiency was just way up. What happens when you go back to Houston? Does the pace probably stay about the same, floating around 90 possessions? But does the efficiency start to dip for a Golden State Warriors team that is relying on their perimeter shooting? You go back to that last game, Warriors were just 8 of 13 at the rim, but they made 17 3-point attempts, 6 more than the Rockets did in that game. So I think that's what I'm going to be curious about is how this game is played. And as we open the show with, the adjustments. Justin Fan, who joined us yesterday from Unabated, brought it up. One would assume that one of the big adjustments is going to be that you're going to play Steven Adams a lot more and maybe even start him with Alperen Şengün today. So whoever gets the boot out of the starting lineup is going to be pretty interesting for Houston. But if that is the case, how do the Warriors adjust and just what does it mean? And I would assume that if Steven Adams is going to be out there, that does help you get this pace down a little bit more, excuse me, the scoring down a little bit more. But I just don't think that this adjustment and or the swing back is warranted to swing this back to 4. Like, I still think 4 is playable on principle.
Okay. The total, though, that you mentioned is interesting. 3-0 to the end of their first 3 games, and then we get our first over last game, and that was, we talked about it, just such a big adjustment from what the opening total was to now sitting 204. What about, last note on this one, what about Steph Curry? Obviously struggled a little bit last game, just 17 points, 6 of 13 shooting. What do you think we get from him?
You probably get a bet. I mean, look at Steph Curry, so I don't think you're going to hold him down too much. And I think this is the good part about now having a guy like Jimmy Butler, who is a little beat up, but he is going to play, which is having somebody you can rely on. Jimmy Butler in the second half was awesome. He hit a bunch of key free throws. I think he had 5 down the stretch, had the defensive rebound of the game that essentially locked it up. But I think that it is hard, as the Rockets have found out, to hold down Steph Curry consistently on a game-to-game basis. The reason why they stole that game in game 1, partly because Steph Curry made some ridiculous shots down the stretch to end up doing it. And I think we saw in game 3 as well, as when he obviously dominated that game 2 and led him to a win. So I think that is one where we're going to be able to at least expect to bounce back. Also, last note really quickly on this Adams thing, because I wanted to bring up the number. Steven Adams and Alperen Şengün on the floor together so far in this series. The Rockets have a plus 28 net rating. That is, they are scoring them over the course of 100 possessions by 28 points when they play their 2 bigs together. One would assume we see them on the floor together.
I was a moment ago about to hit you with some prop numbers, and immediately as I was looking at the board, the numbers started flashing. Steph Curry went from the point prop of 25.5 to 27.5, and it's juiced to -120 to the over on DraftKings. And Jimmy Butler from 20.5 points to 21.5, also -120 to the over there. So people are waking up this morning and betting the stars for the Golden State Warriors. How about Timberwolves, Lakers? LA out from a 5.5 point favorite to 6. So we're seeing the money come in on Los Angeles here, not to be eliminated. They're back on home court, but I mentioned earlier all of the ticket counts. So the public is not believing in Los Angeles. We talked about it earlier. I think they're cooked in the series. I don't think that they have it in them to come back from down 3-1. But as far as this game goes, how do you see it?
I am, again, a little curious as to why we make these massive swings. I get it situationally. The Timberwolves were 2.5-point favorites at home in Game 4, and now here we are in Game 5, and this is a series in which they're up 3-1. The market is telling you not only are the Lakers the better team, they are the much better team. And I just don't think that that is the case from what we've seen so far in the series. Now, you can make the argument, well, John, like we're seeing the exact same scenario in the Denver Nuggets and Los Angeles Clippers series. Yeah, I think that's wrong, too, to make this like a 6.5-point spread in favor of the LA Clippers back at home. So I think the market's getting a little off. And here's the other thing. At least in that series that we're referencing, the Clippers were 1.5-point favorites on the road. Right? The Timberwolves were favored at home, and now we're swinging back here and we're getting this big number. I don't think that that's the case. What I'm curious about is the adjustment that J.J. Redick makes, which is, will he start their Lasers lineup, as they call it, with Rui Hachimura and Dorian Finney-Smith, Austin Reeves, LeBron, and Luka on the floor together, the 5 that closed out the game, in which they ultimately got gassed out and lost. That is clearly their best option. It spaces the floor. It forced the Timberwolves to close the game with Naz Reid as opposed to Rudy Gobert. And I think that that is a lineup which gives them the best opportunity. So the way that I played this was I actually played the first quarter over 51.
Okay.
I'm guessing that J.J. Redick is going to start those 5. And if that is the case, that should lend itself to more scoring for both of these teams, not just the Los Angeles Lakers.
Feel a little bit better about the Lakers now that they are rested and there's been some time beyond Luka Doncic and the food poisoning and everybody's had time to kind of reset and now back at home.
Yeah, but I mean, you know what I'm not liking? J.J. Redick is he's a little stubborn. I don't know if you saw his comments the other day, but he was essentially asked, like, hey, you know, do you feel like maybe you probably should, I'm paraphrasing, you probably shouldn't have run him into the ground. He's like, I feel like we could have won that game and that he officiated. I'm like, buddy, you mentioned the stomach bug. You played Luka Doncic the entirety of the second half when he was puking in the locker room. You played LeBron James, a 40-year-old, the rest of the second half. You totally gassed your guys out. In the fourth quarter, your offensive rating was abysmal because the guys didn't have anything. You would like to see a little bit of like, yeah, you know, maybe I shouldn't have done that, especially when you're up by 12.
Yeah. Well, and it's one of those things that, you know, Tom Thibodeau always gets so much grief for. And then J.J. Redick comes out and does something that literally no other coach in the play-by-play era had done, which was keeping them on the floor for the entirety of the second half. So it's it's a fascinating thing. Edge Boost, by the way, everybody, the first ever bank account built for bettors, ensuring all gambling transactions are approved. No usage fees, no minimums. You get cashback rewards, 100% approval for all betting deposits. And get this, when you sign up today at edgeboost.bet and use our promo code MONEY, deposit $25, Edge Boost is going to match that deposit for you. Head over today, edgeboost.bet, edgeboost.bet. Yeah, I'm excited about the games tonight. I'm excited about the games tomorrow, too. I was surprised to see the Clippers spread as far out as it was. We mentioned that earlier, but 6.5, 7, depending on where you look. So it'll be interesting. We got to take a quick time out here. When we come back, excited to welcome in Fox Sports betting analyst Chris Fallica. We're going to get a little heads up for the Kentucky Derby that's coming up this weekend. And really anything else that he wants to bet, because Fallica is all over it. We'll be right back here on Money Moves.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
JVT and Stormy Buonantony with you back here on Money Moves as we get set for the Kentucky Derby upon us on Saturday. And whether you're placing your first bet or even playing the ponies for years, VSiN's Kentucky Derby betting preview has everything you need to get ahead come Derby Day. Inside the guide, we've got a clear breakdown of how to bet on horse racing for our newcomers, detailed previews of both the Kentucky Derby and Kentucky Oats, and best bets from our top racing experts to help serious bettors cash in. This guide is yours with a VSiN Pro subscription. Start today for $9.99. Get your first 30 days of VSiN Pro. Includes the Derby guide, daily best bets, exclusive betting splits, and so much more. VSiN.com/subscribe is how you can come join us. Again, that's VSIN.com/subscribe. Last year's Derby, Mystic Dan just edged out Sierra Leone and Forever Young by a nose in a photo finish. How might things play out tonight? To help us break it all down, or tonight, this weekend, rather, as we welcome in Chris Fallica on the Progressive Guest Line, Fox Sports betting analyst, host of the Bear Bets podcast. You can follow him on X at Chris Fallica. What is going on? We are finally here. Derby weekend is upon us.
It is, and this is always a great, fun time of the year with the Derby and the NBA and NHL playoffs and kind of baseball season going on. But yeah, this is a one of the weekends of the year where the horse racing is dead crowd kind of has to take a little backseat because whether racing is the sport it was, however long ago it was, everybody, even the casual fans, enjoys the party that is Oaks and Derby weekend.
All right, give us a sit rep on the field. Journalism is a name that I think most of us know, but what are some points that we should know about the field as a whole, Chris?
Well, I think journalism is a very strong favorite, excuse me, in this race. The biggest knock that you can have against journalism is that in his last 4 races, he's only been involved in 5-horse fields, which means he's only faced 4 other horses in those 4 races. So, he's going to face more horses on Saturday than he has in his last 4 races combined. So that is a problem in some people's minds. But I think you can look beyond journalism a little bit. If you look at the winners of the Kentucky Derby, the last 6 years, you had horses that were the 7th choice, the 8th choice, the longest shot in the field, 8th choice, 3rd choice, 18. None of them were shorter than 8-1, and 5 of them were at least 15-1. So looking for a long shot to throw in there certainly is worth your while. And I have 2 that I think potentially could be interesting. I think if you look at Luxor Cafe, who I believe is the 7-horse, it's a Japanese horse. Stormy was just talking about Forever Young, nearly winning last year. I wonder if Luxor Cafe's odds will come down a little bit. But based on the workouts that we've seen from Luxor Cafe at Churchill Downs, it looks like this horse is going to be taken back, and with the perceived fast pace up front, I think this is a horse at 15-1 in the morning line that could factor in. And another price horse that I think is a little bit intriguing is the number 4 horse Rodriguez for Bob Baffert and Mike Smith, the jockey. He's 12-1 on the morning line. I think the question that you need to ask yourself with Rodriguez is, what was the Wood Memorial? What was the bigger reason for success in the Wood Memorial? Was it the softer pace up front, or was it the fact that Bob Baffert took the blinkers off in that race and that really allowed Rodriguez to kind of relax and be comfortable and with the better run? So I think Rodriguez, he may not need the lead on Saturday, but if he can get a clear run, I think you can see another situation where you have a Medina Spirit or an Authentic with a Baffert price horse that winds up winning this race in his first year back after being suspended for a couple of years.
Well, and that's what I was going to ask you. Rodriguez and Citizen Bull, Bob Baffert back, in his words, like he never left. Does it feel like he never left with the horses that he does have available in the Derby?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like he's never left because he's such a dominant figure in the sport and has been so successful here. But it doesn't feel like it has been as massive of a storyline, mainly because a couple of his better horses did not make the race. Citizen Bull, it's funny. I was doing a podcast with Mike Joyce from FanDuel TV, who's been covering all the workouts. And Citizen Bull, if you see the odds on horses potentially to finish last in the race, I think Citizen Bull might be a good bet, only because he worked out in a blistering fast time the other day, and he kind of might have left his race on the workout track as opposed to saving it for Saturday. So Citizen Bull on the rail, a horse that's going to need the lead, is someone you might want to look at maybe to finish last or fade in some head-to-heads.
What are the horses that you're willing to kind of throw out right now?
Yeah, I think there are a few. I think Final Gambit is someone that you can throw out, the 3-horse from a win place. I think Admire Daytona, the 6-horse, is someone that you can completely throw out from a win opportunity. Flying Mohawk, the 11, is someone who can't win. East Avenue, I don't think can win. The 12-horse. Chunk of Gold, the 19th, I don't think can win. Owen Almighty, the 20. I think all of that. So that's about 6 or 7 horses that really have no shot to win. Anyone else in the race, I think, certainly is in there with a puncher's chance.
Chris Fallica joining us here on the Progressive Guest Line, Fox Sports Betting Analyst, host of the Bear Bets podcast. What about when you look at the Kentucky Oaks? What should people know about this race and some potential names that stand out to you there?
Yeah, I think in the Oaks is interesting because you have an undefeated horse, Brad Cox's filly. Good Cheer is someone that maybe doesn't necessarily have the fastest speed figures in the race in terms of buyers, but you watch her races and all she does is dismantle the competition. She is the morning line favorite here, 6-5. I think she is going to be very, very hard to beat. I think the way the pace is going to set up in the race, you've got a couple of pure speed horses in there that are going to go to the front. I think she can just kind of wait and jockey just kind of push the button when he's ready to go. So I think Good Cheer is a really strong favorite in this race. I think she's going to be very hard to keep out of the exacta. If you're looking for a couple of horses, maybe to throw in an exacta box or a try, or maybe just play win place money across the board to potentially beat her, look at the number 1 horse Early On, who ran Too Good to Lose in her last race at Aqueduct. Savvy Joseph's horse has been a much different animal in her last couple of races. I think 30-1 is a ridiculous price on her. I think the 9 horse Tenma, who is Bob Baffert's filly in the Oaks, she kind of had a really nice prep in her last race. She's set to move forward in a big way and probably will be sitting just off the pace as well. And the 10 horse Take Charge Milady for Kenny McPeak, who had Torpedo Anna win the Oaks last year, and he won the Derby with Mystic Dan. Take Charge Milady had a little bit of a foot issue. She worked out this morning and looked okay, and she's probably going to be a pretty nice price as well. So Good Cheer, 6-5 favorite with 3 horses that are all double-digit odds. That's why I'm going to be looking at the Oaks.
All right, horse handicappers like yourself like to use the word pace a lot. I understand what the word means, but in context of horse racing, how do I use this? Mike Somich, in his article for the Derby, said that this is setting up to be one of the hottest paces for the Kentucky Derby that he can remember. So how do I use that? What does that mean?
That means that you can assume. It was one of the things I first noticed with the Derby draw as well, that mainly all of the speed horses drew down inside, which means you're pretty much guaranteed a fast pace. A horse like Neopos, a horse like East Avenue, a horse like Citizen Bull, they're all going to be on the lead. So you're going to get a pace that you got. Not only going to get horses running fast, you're going to get a lot of horses running fast, and that means they're going to tire each other out, and it's going to set up for horses that are kind of in that second flight right behind the speed horses. So you're probably going to want to look for horses that are either closers or stalkers, like Sovereignty, Bill Mott's horse, who I didn't mention yet, who ran a great prep race in the Florida Derby, or the favorite Journalism, who kind of comes from that second flight. I don't think this is going to be a race where you're going to get a horse that's going to get away with a cheap lead, or a horse that's going to kind of go 46 and change up front, which would be a ridiculously fast fraction, and kind of hang on. So a lot of times in the Derby in recent years, you've had favorites, had really horses that like to be on the lead, kind of hang on for a while and win. But I don't think this is going to be a case. I think you're looking for a stalker or a closer. And also, if I want to keep in the back of your mind when you're handicapping, look for horses that have either shown an affinity for an off track, for a sloppy track or a wet track, because it looks like we're going to get some rain this week and potentially Friday and Saturday as well. So that's another monkey wrench to throw in your handicapping puzzle there.
Chris, he's only got about 30 seconds left, but as somebody who really enjoys horse racing, but I've never been to any of the major Triple Crown events, you've been to so many Kentucky Derbies. What's the best part of being in person at a race like that?
The best part about the Kentucky Derby is kind of what I said at the beginning. You've got a group of your friends and people and the star watching, or whatever to say there, but so many people are at Churchill Downs. So many people are interested in the card and the race, and it's kind of an opportunity for me to interact and kind of educate people on how to read the form. Yeah. You're sitting there, mint juleps flowing all day long. You got people who are just betting on names. It's one big party. It's just a great time with everybody.
That's what we're going to take your insight, combine it with our favorite names, make a trifecta box, see how it all works out. This was awesome.
Exactly.
Thank you so much for the time, as always, Bear.
You got to take care.
Follow him on X at Chris Fallica. And as I mentioned before, the Bear Bets podcast, always such a fun listen with Jeff Schwartz, Sammy P, our own Will Hill. The gambling group chat is a blast when those guys get going. We're going to take a timeout. Coming up here on Money Moves, we're going to dive into tonight's 3-game NHL slate. Last night was wild. And I'm not just talking about Minnesota, Vegas. Will we get more of that action coming up tonight? We'll discuss.
You're watching Money Moves here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Oh, hey, I'm I'm in the intro now, huh?
Wowie.
Look at that. All right, we got 3 games in the National Hockey League tonight. 2 of them are elimination contests, so I figure we need to pick your brain about what we're going to see later tonight on the ice. And I wanted to start with a series that I am surprised with when it comes to the results up to this point. And you need to tell me why we are here. I heard a lot for the Tampa Bay Lightning. A lot.
I was one of them.
Were you? Okay. No, I wasn't putting that on you. You were not the person I heard that from. So Lightning right now, you see this open up as a $1.25 favorite, 5.5 shaded to the over at -125. Current numbers right now, we're floating like closer to pick with the 5.5 now over -115. Market is gravitating toward Florida. A mini version of do you approve the move is do you understand why the Florida Panthers are garnering action on the road here?
I mean, I get it. They're up in this series. They have found a way to win games. They've looked like the better team the majority of play. Their penalty kill has been awesome for a Lightning power play that was the 4th or 5th best unit in the NHL during the regular season. They're 1 of 15 here in the playoffs. They're 15 of 16 teams that are playing. They've had massive missed opportunities, I feel like, left and right for a team that started to play so well defensively late in the year. We gave so much credit to Andrei Vasilevsky for the way that he was playing in net. It seems like all of those things that were working in their favor since 4 Nations to the playoffs have kind of gone to the wayside, and Florida has gained a lot of confidence, and they're playing like it. I do want to mention in this series as well, we've had a lot of bad beats on the totals. Notably, last game, we talked a lot about the swing that there was in the last 3 minutes and 40 some seconds about how it looked like the Lightning were going to be able to close that thing out, win 2-1. Obviously, we have a full reversal there in the last couple minutes. The third period's the last 2 games, looks like under games, ends up going over. So that's been a tough one, but I understand why the Panthers are getting played. I really liked the Lightning. I like their defense. I like their depth. I like their high-end skill. I like their goaltending, one of the best in the world in net, and they just haven't played to that caliber.
Do you have something for the series?
Yeah, I bet the Lightning for the series.
So would you, if I removed that from your portfolio and asked you to bet this game here today, would it be Lightning as the price continues to get cheaper?
I thought about it because they're at home. I could see them putting up that fight. And we saw that last night, too. Even the New Jersey Devils last night, who are up against it, they end up losing ultimately the game in 2 overtime, but they were fighting. And that's a series that's been a bad matchup for them, and they still came out. I think at home, the Lightning certainly have enough in them to win this game. It's just a matter of will they? And that's why I had a problem backing this team the other day, and I wouldn't bet the game because I leaned Lightning, I leaned under. Looked like it was going to play out that way, and then it didn't. So this is a series I feel like I've just had a bad read on and have been staying off of.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, like from the way that I view series, which is a lot of the even strength metrics. This has been a near dead even series for the most part in terms of shot share.
It's special teams and goaltending that's the difference.
Yep. And if you look at some of the other things, I mean, like an edge in terms of high danger chances for Florida throughout the series, but it's not like incredible. So I've been pretty intrigued by this because everything would tell you, I mean, it feels like a pretty even series, but at some point through 4 games, maybe you're just going to get a little bit of a tilt one way or the other, and it's going to go the other direction. All right. The other ones that we're looking at right now, we do have a sizable price tag at both the favorites later today. Washington is a $1.75 or $1.85 favorite, total 6. We're starting to see that kind of teeter back and forth between $1.80 and $1.75. Can you convince yourself to bet Montreal here in this spot?
Probably not. I've kind of said from the beginning, I feel like the Caps are going to be able to close this thing out. I think there are other ways if you wanted to get involved in Montreal that you could go first period. You could go first team to score in this one there, although they've only scored first in one of the games so far in this series. They've been able to keep a lot of these games close, yet Washington has still been able to come out on top repeatedly. They've only gotten 1 win in this series. Washington, as you mentioned, out to as high as 185 right now, and I think that is the right side. There are ways, I guess, if you wanted to talk yourself into it. The young talent on Montreal, certainly there, certainly capable. I think we're at a point, though, in this series where you have the veteran aged guys who have been here, want to make a push after what was just such a remarkable and unexpectedly remarkable regular season for the Capitals. And this Montreal team is maybe just a little bit ahead of schedule. They're young, they're figuring it out. But what I failed to say earlier is what I've been saying from the beginning about this series is that I think that the Caps close this thing out pretty handily. They actually haven't been as good this series as I thought they could be. We haven't seen them play their best, in my opinion, and potentially we get that tonight at home in a closeout game. Well,
while you're talking too, Circa goes from $1.74 to -182. They got to as high as -190 earlier this morning, so it would seem that there's a little bit more support. Maybe we get that bottom line, right? Like $1.74 is like the cheapest the market's going to let this happen. Anything total-wise?
Probably lean under, to be honest with you, if we're at that 6.5 now.
Some of the 6.5s are gone. I'm looking at 6, like under minus like 115. And
yeah, I'm looking at that juice now too, even on the 6.5s that are available. I think that's the right side. I think the money's moving in the right direction toward the under.
Get it?
Ho, ho, ho.
All right, last one. Any shot here? I shouldn't say any shot, actually. Let me ask you this. So I've been told by some, not you, if this is you, I apologize. Winnipeg. No. This is it. The Jets. And this is before the series started. This is it. They're great. You got to get your tickets now, folks. So what's going on?
So
they're $1.80 favorite here.
I told you, what was it, on Monday when we did Call Me Crazy, that 3 of the top 5 teams in the odds to win a Stanley Cup final are unbettable, and the Jets are among that group. Mm-hmm. This is a team that year after year gets your hopes up, leads you to believe they can do things. This year, obviously, they win the President's Trophy. They were the best team throughout the course of the year in the regular season, had the best goaltender in the world, going to win back-to-back Vezinas, 3, going to be a Hall of Famer in Connor Hellebuck. But they don't deliver in the playoffs. They just don't. I like St. Louis today. If they don't win, I would say bet them absolutely and maybe double down on the unit to make up for what you lost this one, because I have full confidence that they will win Game 6 at home, where they won 14 in a row. They were dominant, outscored the Jets 12-3 in those 2 games at home. I'm not usually a momentum carrier type of a person, but I do think that there's something to what they were able to do offensively in getting to Connor Hellebuck. And there is such a narrative about him not being able to perform in the playoffs for a reason. Right now, worst goals against average and save percentage of any goalie in the postseason with 3+ starts. Wow. Game 3 gives up 6 goals on 25 shots, gives up 5 in Game 4 on 18 shots, was pulled in the third period and replaced by Eric Comrie in both. He hasn't had a ton of help in front of him either, quite frankly. Winnipeg forwards only blocked 3 shots last game. 0 blocked in the third period. And unfortunately for him, this is more than just a 1-2 game sample too. He's given up 4+ goals in 10 of his last 13 playoff starts, 52 total. So that's roughly 2 goals per game more than his average when he is in the postseason. His save percentage was in the mid 800s for 12 of his last 13 games, below 800 the last 2. If this was any other goalie, he wouldn't be starting tonight. But he is, because he's going to be a Hall of Famer and he's one of the best goaltenders out there. Mm-hmm. He just can't deliver in this spot, and I don't trust him to be able to wake up and change that.
So everything you're saying and what I was looking at metrics wise, like to me it was St. Louis. Like I don't think you and everything you're ripping off sounds like this is the case. So it sounds like you would agree when I say the statement. I just don't think the gap between these two is as wide as that money line would suggest.
I agree, and I probably fired too early, because sure, there is potential that the Jets can win this game, and they're a big favorite to do so. But I bet St. Louis plus 155 for them to win the series yesterday. And plus 150 to win the game today, I think is completely reasonable. If they lose this game, you come back, you bet them Game 6, and you're going to get an even better number for them to win the series.
You have confidence. They're done, huh?
I'm not usually as convicted in my opinions as I am on this series. I think that the Blues are a team that got extremely hot the back end of the year for that wild card spot. And for a Jets team that had such a great regular season, they caught a bad break getting this opponent. All right.
I'm in. I need a hockey bet tonight. Winnipeg it is. You've convinced me.
You're fading me?
Oh, no, sorry. No, that was Freudian slip. It was a Freudian slip.
Dang, I was working so hard to say.
That's good.
What did you think?
Can you imagine if I pulled that rug out from under you?
I want to say this, though, about last night. For the Carolina Hurricanes to be down 3-0 early in that game, they don't have their starting goaltender in there. You're like, okay, I guess this series is going to get extended. Freddie Anderson hadn't given up, combined in the series as many goals as were given up in the first period yesterday. And so I was very impressed with them, how they were able to close that out. We still need to see what's going to happen in the goaltending situation health-wise moving forward for Anderson. And then the Toronto Maple Leafs continue to be unable to close out a game. I liked them yesterday. I had them in one of my parlays. At least the Canes came through ultimately in double overtime for me to cash that other parlay. But the Leafs lose 4-0 in a shutout. They are 13 now in closeout games the last 20 years. When they have an opportunity, they can't do it. I was texting with Jonathan Davis yesterday. Their high-end best power play guys never seem to score a power play goal on any opportunity they're given late in series and opportunities to close out games. It's crazy. It's crazy that they can't do this.
It sounds like their next opportunity is their last chance, much like our audience's last chance to get in on our summer special over at VSiN.com. Make sure you check that out, folks. VSiN Pro through August 1st for less than $60. Your last opportunity to do so here as we are getting closer to the Kentucky Derby. The betting guide is there as well. We're saving you over 33% off the monthly price. VSiN.com/subscribe. Every sport, every edge, one low price.
Excuse me, I misspoke. 1 in 14. Last
that's better.
50.
That's better.
So, yeah. Brutal. I really thought things were different this time around. They should win the next game, but worth noting. We're going to take a quick timeout when we come back, looking at the MLB card for the day and who will win the most games in the month of May. Don't go anywhere.